Donald Trump to be sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. Gupta-owned Oak Bay Investments slams the finance minister in court papers over his reluctance to intervene in the bank's debacle. The Gambia's defeated former president, Yahya Jammeh, is given more time to leave office. It's Friday. Hello and welcome to it. You're watching eNews Direct. I'm Duduzile Ramela.
And I'm Sandy Lekangose. Good evening.
To comment on any of our stories, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNews Direct.
And tonight our hashtags are Trump inauguration and Gambia.
Right, let's take you live to Washington, D.C. now, where businessman turned politician Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. Mike Pence will also be sworn in as the new Vice President, replacing Joe Biden. So here's what you need to know about what's happening today. Donald Trump will take oath of office. That's before making his much anticipated inaugural speech, where he will set out his vision for America. He replaces Barack Obama after winning last year's presidential elections. Now, in a few minutes, Trump will be sworn in, and he's opted to use two Bibles: the Lincoln Bible, used by both Lincoln and Obama, as well as his grandmother's Bible. It's expected that 800,000 to 900,000 visitors will be in attendance from across the U.S., both supporters and critics. Also in attendance will be former U.S. presidents, including Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary, who was Trump's opponent during the 2016 election. And that right there is the man of the moment, Mr. Donald Trump, who's about to become the 45th President of the United States. Now, at the same time, anti-Trump protests have been held ahead of the inauguration in the U.S. Capitol. Around 99 groups staged demonstrations, but security is tight. Well, that won't stop celebrations, as there will be a parade on Pennsylvania Avenue and an inaugural ball this evening. We come back home now, where the Gupta family is accusing Finance Minister Gordahn of driving a politically motivated plot against them. This is according to information they received from unnamed sources. In court papers filed today, the family's companies have also disputed intelligence that they were involved in suspicious transactions of over 6 billion rand. Gordahn had suggested it was these transactions that led the banks to sever ties with Gupta companies.
Last year, Finance Minister Gordahn asked the North Gauteng High Court to order that he couldn't get involved in the Gupta family's battle with South Africa's major banks. That case effectively enabled those same banks to disclose why, after the axing of Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene, they had cut ties with Gupta companies. Certain institutions have cited fears of money laundering and irregular transactions. But the Guptas say that the Financial Intelligence Centre certificate that Gordahn used to identify 72 so-called suspicious transactions involving Gupta companies can never be used as evidence against them.
The certificate appended to the papers by the minister is totally inconclusive and impossible from that certificate to assume that there was any ill conduct by the family or the group.
Clients, the Guptas, are essentially saying that the finance minister is driving a politically motivated plot against them. But do you have any proof to back up those claims?
We've gone out of our way to complete a comprehensive affidavit dealing with all these allegations. And I'm going to give you a copy of those papers, and you can go through those papers and then decide for yourself whether those allegations are founded or not.
Court papers reveal that the Gupta's conspiracy claims against Gordahn rest on comments he allegedly made in January last year about an unnamed family being a threat to the South African economy. The Guptas appear to believe that this was what led to banks cutting ties with them, but say there are no witnesses willing to testify about the minister's alleged comments. The North Gauteng High Court is expected to hear the case in late March. Karen Morn, Johannesburg.
A disturbing photograph of a woman being transported in a cattle cage on the back of a bakkie has prompted outrage. The 27-year-old pregnant woman says she chose to sit at the back rather than in the front seat. Now, many people there say traveling in this manner is the norm and don't see what the fuss is about. The driver of the vehicle and his family have since received over 30 death threats after the picture was shared on social media. Many say the image is reminiscent of South Africa's oppressive past.
There may have been reasons that this woman has learnt and that has been passed on from woman to woman in the society about how and when to take a lift and where to sit in order to avoid any kind of complication. Because we must also not forget that this is a very small society. It turned out that this is a very small town. Everybody sort of knows everybody else. And so this woman's livelihood, the black woman in the back of the vehicle, her livelihood, her safety, her security, her sense of belonging in this town is all up in question because a group of people, 55 million of us, needed to make sense of an image that somebody else took.
It's still unclear what caused the fire that led to the deaths of 3 children in Snake Park, Soweto. The siblings who were sleeping in their home when the fire started, and they were all under the age of 6.
These are the remains of the Mokoena family home. The children were sleeping here when a fire gutted their shack. Their burnt clothes are the only remaining recognizable items. Both parents survived the blaze.
What I was thinking.
Neighbors are still gathering around, discussing what may have caused the fire in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Some say the couple was experiencing domestic difficulties. While a fire investigation is being carried out, there are many rumors doing the rounds here.
As a family, we condemn any speculations. We are not even in a position to ask them as to what transpired now. It will show Gupta nobuntu. So those who are speculating, we request please let them hold themselves.
Police have opened an inquest docket. In the meantime, the Gauteng Social Development Department is assisting the family.
They've provided us with the support, blankets, foods, and clothes and shacks that are going to accommodate the 2 families up until we finish what we are doing now.
The 3 children will be buried next Thursday. Sikelelwa Mdingi, Snake Park in Soweto.
An interim public protector's report into alleged apartheid-era looting needs to be understood within the current political context. That's the view of at least one political analyst as debates around state capture gain momentum within South African society.
An almost 2 decades old intelligence report compiled by a former British spy forms the backbone of an interim public protector report that fingers ABSA in apartheid-era looting. This isn't all that new, and as the truth is still being pieced together, the question begs itself, why now? Bancorp, a 1980s-era banking conglomerate, received a lifeline from the Reserve Bank to offset bad loans that threatened its survival. According to the interim findings of the Public Protector's Report, the loan was dodgy. Bancorp would pay an interest rate of just 1%. But it had to use that 1.5 billion rand to buy government bonds, which yielded about 16%. ABSA bought Bancorp in 1992, and for some, this is the tip of the iceberg in apartheid-era looting.
For the first time, I think we can say that white capital has been exposed as also being corrupt, involved in state capture, and having basically been protected.
2 investigations by the Heath Special Investigating Unit and the Davos Tax Commission flagged wrongdoing in the deal. But the interim report by the Public Protector, largely based on a report by CX, a covert United Kingdom-based asset recovery agency headed by a former British intelligence official Michael Oatley, is the only one suggesting that ABSA should pay the government back.
There's a lot of Orwellian manipulation, that is the manipulation of information to shape views and opinions about particular political realities, including the ABSA imbroglio.
ABSA, government and other related parties have until the end of February to respond formally to the Public Protector's report. Nicolaus Bauer, Johannesburg.
Let's head to the Gambia now, where President Yahya Jammeh has asked for an extension to vacate office. He was initially given until 2 p.m. to leave or face being kicked out by regional forces. The presidents of Mauritania and Guinea have now arrived in the Gambia for last-minute talks with Jammeh. He was defeated by Adama Barrow in last month's election. Barrow took his oath of office at the Gambian embassy in Senegal yesterday. He's called for international support from the African Union and the United Nations. A regional military force launched an intervention dubbed Operation Restore Democracy shortly after the former opposition figure was sworn in. Jammeh initially conceded defeat but then refused to accept the election result. The case against the Tulsi twins has been postponed yet again. The advocate for the twin brothers accused of terrorism say there's no clear evidence against them and charges should be dropped. Brandon and Tony Lee Tulsi appeared in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court this morning and will reappear on the 25th of January. They're accused of contravening various terrorism laws in connection with an alleged plot to bomb U.S. and Jewish buildings in South Africa. And Oak Bay Investments has submitted an affidavit to the High Court in Pretoria. That's in response to the application by Finance Minister Pravin Gordahn. In the papers, Oak Bay says the minister's application is riddled with factual and legal errors. Lawyers for the Gupta-linked company said the list of 72 purported suspicious transaction reports is misplaced and the minister's application is supported by a flawed analysis and a faulty factual record. Remember, if you've missed any of the stories we're tracking for you tonight, you can of course find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNews Direct, or you can head on over to our website. That's eNCA.com/direct. After the break, your business news as well as your weekend weather forecast. In money matters, MTN may have to wait a little longer before it can list on the Nigerian stock exchange. The telecoms giant says it might take up to 18 months to get its Nigerian operation listed. The company is still trying to resolve regulatory disputes. Africa's largest wireless carriers also awaiting the recovery of the Nigerian economy. MTN agreed to list its Nigerian unit as part of the billion-dollar settlement fine imposed by authorities there. The penalty was imposed after the network failed to disconnect unregistered subscribers. The Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index was ranked the world's worst performer in 2016 among 94 indices tracked by Bloomberg. Lower oil revenue and capital controls drove the country's economy into recession in the first 3 quarters of 2016. The World Economic Forum comes to a close in Davos. However, questions are now being asked about the South African delegation and what they've achieved.
As the World Economic Forum comes to a close here in snowy Davos, Team South Africa reports a lot has been achieved. Despite the country's lackluster economic performance in 2016, ministers here are optimistic that 2017 will be a much better year.
I think as South Africa, we've got some strength. South Africa is a critical part of the African continent. South Africa is able to be a player in the future, but we've also got some big debates to have back home as to how are we going to develop a more inclusive model of social development.
Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa is leading Team South Africa's delegation here in Davos, and he's been quite upbeat about the reception that South Africa's message has received at this annual meeting. Earlier I sat down with him and I asked him if the increasing problems in the developed world meant that South Africa, Africa and other emerging markets were being left on the sidelines.
We are a stable country politically and economically. We have our challenges, but we have taken steps and interventions that are unfolding to address those challenges, and we are deepening our ability to deal with those in order to grow the economy of our country.
And that's all we have for you from the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos. Goodbye.
Let's see how the markets performed today. Here's Candace with all your weather details.
High weather continues over the western part of South Africa with a sunny and warmer day expected on Saturday. We're forecasting mostly cloudy weather with rainfall along the east coast with a few showers over the far northeastern parts, and cooler temperatures are expected in the northeast with isolated thundershowers forming between the northwest and the eastern interior. It'll be a mild to warm Saturday for KwaZulu-Natal with the possibility of rainfall and highs in the mid-20s along the east coast. You'll see thundershowers as we head further inland, Pietermaritzburg at 22 degrees. Showers are forecast over the far eastern part of the Eastern Cape, but with a dry day for the rest of the province, but with a bit of cloud overhead, and you'll see a high in the mid-20s along the coast, 30 for Somerset East. A sunny Saturday is in store for the Western Cape, other than some cloud over the northwestern parts, 35 for Worcester and Vredendal, Cape Town and Longabon at around 30 degrees, with a high fire danger warning over the western part of the Western and Northern Cape. Dry weather continues for the Northern Cape with another sunny day in store with highs well into the 30s. Dry and hot over the Western Free State with isolated thundershowers over the northern and eastern parts. 36 for Vryburg with the rest of the highs in the low 30s for the northwest, and isolated thundershowers are expected here. Isolated thundershowers also extend through to Limpopo, Polokwane and Tzaneen at 25 with showers over the eastern part of the province as well as into the eastern part of Mpumalanga. You'll see thundershowers as we head towards the Highveld with Bombela and Secunda expecting a maximum of 25 degrees. A high of around 30 is forecast for Gauteng on Saturday with up to a 40% chance of afternoon and evening thundershowers. It'll be a warm Sunday for the coastal areas with a dry forecast for Gauteng but with thundershowers over the northern and central interior as well as into Limpopo, and that also continues through to Monday. Still dry and hot for Gauteng with thundershowers expected over a large portion of the interior, but things remain dry for KwaZulu-Natal as well as Cape Town. That's all from the Weather Centre for now. Have a great weekend.
Brighten your day with a Cash Converters Sunny Day mini loan. Come in store and we'll put instant cash right in your pocket. Only at Cash Converters.
Thank you, Candace. After the break, we bring you a rags to riches story of a caddy whose life changed at the recent South African Open in Johannesburg. Welcome back. The SA Open might be behind him, but the South African caddy who helped Graham Storm to his win hopes the best is yet to come.
Yep, and Jeffrey Nkonyana scored himself a handsome reward for his troubles.
That's the one.
52-year-old Jeffrey Nkonyane has been caddying at the Wanderers Golf Club here in Johannesburg since the age of 16.
Great shot.
He carried SA Open winner Graham Storm's bag last week after the Englishman's regular caddy had to pull out. And Storm's surprise win against Rory McIlroy in a playoff ensured Nkonyane a 350,000 Rand bonus.
We were sharing advices big time. We were like fork in knife, you know. Oh, that last part, I mean, as we hit it on the green, I said to him, now we've done the job.
Nkonyane has caddied for Storm a handful of times before in South Africa, but still only manages to scrape by on between 700 Rand and 2,500 Rand per month. The Alexandra local says the prize money will come in handy.
Redone my life and my house, take care of my family and myself, save the rest.
Nkonyane also plays golf on occasion and has a handicap of 15. However, he says his great love is caddying.
Wind off the left now, the wind is all over the shore, now it's coming from off the left, across breeze.
Nkonyane says although the SA Open was the highlight of his career, he hopes there will be more such opportunities and success to come. Karla Kutsia, Johannesburg.
A reminder of the day's top stories before we say goodbye. Donald Trump is to be sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. Gupta-owned Oak Bay Investments slams the finance minister in court papers over his reluctance to intervene in the bank's debacle.